All right, well, officially welcome to today's Brave Lab. Today is a seasonal intention setting for the season of winter, which is coming up in just a couple of days, just like that. Solstice is upon us. I feel like as soon as November hits, it's winter, but technically it is a late start here in the end of December. Let's start today with some breath work and then we'll move into our content. So, taking an intentional seat, I want to put my coffee down, even though I really don't want to. I want to keep sipping on that. I'm going to leave my camera on. It's entirely up to you how you want to move through this practice. We'll be here for just a few minutes. And so, giving yourself some permission to settle into your seat, whatever that might be. This is my first thing for the day. This might not be your first thing for the day. This might be your 10th thing for the day. So whatever happened before and whatever's on the other side of this class, you're allowed to just little bookends, kind of holding those things out to the sides, letting the eyes close. You can also focus on that image on the screen if you'd prefer to not close the eyes. And as soon as you do whatever that is going to be for you, noticing the body in this moment, feeling the support of your seat, both beneath you and behind you. And I'll invite you to sit back so you can actually feel the back of your chair wherever you're seated, supporting your spine. Noticing your hands in the lap. Noticing your feet on the floor, rooted and grounded in this moment. Notice the quality of your mind. Maybe your mind is chatty today. Just noticing. We don't have to attach to any thought. We don't have to greet it. Just like you might walk through a party and see lots of familiar faces, but not necessarily stop and talk to any one person, just taking it all in. Just noticing the thoughts that are present. And then bringing your awareness down into your heart space and noticing the quality of your emotion today. And then moving into the gut, noticing the sensations here at the belly, our inner fire, our inner hearth. Metaphorically, a part of us that needs a little extra stoking in the winter to keep us warm and satiated through the dark and colder nights. Noticing your breath moving in and out of the body, breathing you. And this natural ebb and flow. A practice of non-attachment. And settling in your attention at that inner hearth, that inner fire, the fire in the belly. Down here in the belly, it's our seat for digestion, metabolism, that inner fire that helps us digest and rest. Notice when fire is contained, we move closer to it. Like a bonfire that gets out of control, we might inch away. So imagine this inner fire being cozy enough that you want to curl up next to it. The perfect amount of warmth and heat Notice your energy in this moment as we move closer to the winter solstice, having less light, less daylight. Notice what are the things you have energy for at this time, and what don't you have the energy for. Just as bears move into a hibernation, imagine you could put a pause on anything that's just not necessary in this season. And really enjoy the things you keep around, the things you choose to tend to with your precious energy and daylight. And sitting here for a moment, enjoying that invitation to do less. Where in your life could you really use that? Letting all that concentration go from wherever it came, returning once more to your breath. And then returning to your seat, supporting you in the space. And as you're ready, flickering the eyes open, coming back into the room wherever you are, grabbing a pen and your journal. Feel free to jot down anything that came up in that meditation that you want to capture. I'll give you a couple minutes here to do that. All right, finding a final thought there. If you're jotting anything down, feel free to also pop into the chat box and share anything that came out of that meditation for you. Anything surprise you? Anything delight you in that practice? It was a quick practice, but all the same. I'll wait a moment here in case anyone wants to share. Okay, let's continue. So in today's lab, as we transition into a new season, we are presented with a unique opportunity to realign ourselves with the changing rhythms of nature. And this is something I think we ought to do at every season shift. We have the winter solstice. The end of March, we have the spring equinox. In summer, we have the summer solstice from mid-June. And then late September, we have the fall equinox. So these times in the year are these natural pointed moments of pause and realignment and affirmation, and really not just taking it as a change of the season that just, we could just sit and set new goals, but really allowing the season to influence or impact the kind of intention you set for the time ahead. Nature has given us a tremendous gift, and there's so much metaphor packed into every season. We'll talk a little bit about each season here in a moment just to cue up the winter season. And what we do with our time and our energy looks different in the summer than it does in the winter. I don't know about you all, but here in the Northwest, if I don't head out for my late afternoon walk by 3:30, it is pitch black by the time I get home. And where I live, there's no street lamps. So it's a real safety thing. I can't be out that much later. And yet in the summer, I can do my late afternoon walk as late as 8 p.m. and still have plenty of daylight. So it changes our tasks, it reorients our attention and how we show up. So in today's lab, we're going to use that energy of the winter to really set forth some intentions for yourself. And you can use that intention for your life, for your work, anything else you're working on that an intention would be helpful to play with. Together, we'll delve deeper into our personal needs and take some time to assess what we need moving into the new season. So we'll look at the qualities of winter, and then we're going to practice that with today's work. And then we're also going to set an intention at the end of class today. So you'll walk out with a lot of information. So if you don't already, you do need your journal for today's lab. And we're going to explore ways to adapt your routines and nurture your well-being, and then set that intention that resonates with what I would imagine is a pretty introspective time of year. Winter is about introspection. It's about pausing the non-necessaries. And I will note that I find it fascinating that, we follow a Roman calendar, so the new year falls in the middle of winter. If we were to follow a pagan calendar, for example, we would celebrate the new year in spring, which to me feels more rhythmically aligned to set intentions and new goals at the beginning of the new birth season, when new spring shoots are coming up and leaves are sprouting and baby animals are being born. That being said, we live in the West and we celebrate, January 1st, the brand new year in the middle of a very dark and cold season. So you may subscribe to setting goals for the new year. Be my guest, please do. I do as well, even though it doesn't feel quite like the right time of year to do that. But maybe this year is about letting it percolate and letting it germinate over the winter season. And maybe you name some goals and aspirations for yourself, but perhaps you don't dedicate a valiant amount of energy and effort to them until March or April. Speaking of April, thank you for letting me know in the Muslim calendar, spring equinox is the new year. Yeah, and I believe in Chinese New Year, it doesn't quite fall in the spring, but on our way to spring. So there's other traditions we can borrow from if the middle of winter doesn't, for whatever reason, inspire you, given that it's cold and dark out, at least here where I live. A couple of books for your toolbox if you're looking for some wintry reads that are really about honoring the rhythm of the season. So Wintering by Katherine May, lovely, lovely book. And The Seven Whispers by Christina Baldwin. Seven Whispers is the book recommendation I put in the community for December. It's not about winter specifically, but each whisper, as she calls it, is a very wintering practice. For example, we're going to look at one today, rehumanizing your speed or pace of life. That is a very winter practice, an opportunity to reevaluate all that outpouring of energy we do 9 to 10 months out of the year. And what would it look like to recall or reclaim some of that energy and slow down a little bit? So a couple of recommendations there for your toolkit. And if you've read either of them, let me know in the chat box if you enjoy it or if you found them to be helpful to you. All right, let's take a quick overview of each of the seasons just to gear up for the winter. So in my little corner of the world, spring is the new year. And I will celebrate the new year on January 1st, but for me, rhythmically and energetically, spring is the new year. And this represents new beginnings. Spring is on a clock. It would be dawn. It would be 6 a.m. In our moon cycle, our moon phases, it would be the first quarter moon. And this is a time for fresh ideas and new goals and aspirations. What has germinated over the winter and even from last fall that's taking shape. And although in the spring, goals and ideas are very young and they're very new and they have little tiny little sprouts, they do give us an indication of what's coming. In the summer, this is full bloom. On a clock, it would be noon. So it's high noon energy. If we were looking at the moon phases, it would be our full moon. And this represents abundance and bounty from your ideas. So where things are in full bloom, you look out your window in summer and there's foliage and there's flowers and there's daylight all day long. We have the longest day of the year. We have the sun coming up at 5 a.m. and going down at 10 p.m. So we just have a lot of light. And because we have a lot of light, we have a lot of food and flowers and growth and energy. And I don't know about you, but I like to be outside in the summer. I like to really bask in that heat and the abundance of sunlight in summer. And then fall comes around late September, and this is our time for harvest. So we start to take all that we sprouted in spring, all that came to fruition in summer, and we start to collect the fruits of our labor. We start to cash it in. And part of that cashing in is creating some reserves for the forthcoming winter. On a clock, fall would be dusk, 6 p.m. So we're not in the dark, but we're on our way. And in the moon cycles, it would be the last quarter moon. And this season is about clearing and discernment and learnings and takeaways. So, what is the harvest teaching you? What did the summer bring to you? What have you learned in this time of year? I also love in the fall as the leaves start to come down to the ground and the foliage gets, retreats and we start to cull back our gardens. I can see further. I have more clarity because I can look out on the field, and when there's foliage, you can't see through the forest. But in the fall and in the winter, you have clarity. You have lots of clear days. And so that to me is about discernment and being clear on what we're taking into the winter as a cultivation for the next spring. And that takes us to winter, the season we're about to enter into in a couple of days. So, winter is about reserves. What do we have in our resource bank that we can benefit from and fill up on so that we don't have to exert as much energy in the winter? On a clock, winter is midnight, dark. It's when we're asleep. Not everyone, but let's say metaphorically, it's when we're sleeping. In the moon phase, it would be the new moon. So a new moon is actually no moon. And it's the time when, back in the day, when we lived according to the Farmer's Almanac, we would have planted seeds. Because if you plant seeds in a full moon, that premature light has a premature crack on your buds and it can have you have premature growth and then they get stunted. So we plant in a new moon. Metaphorically, I love that. We plant ideas that are going to come to fruition in the spring. We start to percolate about. So winter is not about doing nothing, but it's all behind the scenes. What's going on behind what people can see, behind closed doors, metaphorically. This is a time for introspection and curiosity and stillness. So it's quiet. And just in our meditation with our little hearth and thinking about the inner fire, we don't get as much light, we don't get as much heat. And so what we do get, we really have to make count for the time that we have. Now, we live in a modern time where we can bypass the seasons and have the same temperature in our home year round. So I get that this is something we really have to seek by going outside our home and allowing the seasons to influence and impact how we navigate our goals and our intentions for each of the seasons. I'm going to pause here. Any questions or any ahas, put them in the chat box about this quick little overview of our seasonal calendar. And this is how I look at it. Certainly not invented by me, but just culminated over the years of my own learnings about how to work with seasons more specifically. I'll give you all just a moment in case there is a question or an aha, and then we'll continue. Thank you, Catherine. She says, I appreciate how we can see the cycle of the year in one day as well. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Just look at the hours of the day, right? Look at the hours on the clock, even if you wanted to. Yeah, it's a good framework, I think, for our day, our week, our month, our year, however you want to work with it. All right, let's continue here. So we're gonna do a short reflection. Well, I'm gonna give you three, let me look at the time. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes for this. I think this is important. So you're gonna reflect on your recent fall season. So we're coming out of the fall and back to our notes here. This was a time of harvest and clearing and discernment and learnings and takeaways. So what did we learn this fall? What did you cultivate, change, or grow during the fall season? So I'll give you 5 minutes for this reflection. And I'm always available in the chat box if you have questions or comments while we're doing reflection. All right, we're about halfway, so take another 2.5 minutes. All right, about 30 seconds. So finding a wrap-up thought or point. It's also helpful to reread what you just wrote and just note anything that jumps out at you. All right, so putting that aside, we're not going to share on that here, but hold on to it. You're going to want to come back to it as we continue along here. All right, so as we just pointed out, winter is a season for introspection, curiosity, and stillness. And I want to just comment on what Cece put in the chat box. She said, I'm excited to be still and curious at the same time. And I love that it could almost be paradoxical, but curiosity from stillness is about physically leaning back and allowing ourselves to listen. And that's something we're going to play with here in a moment, but to just pay attention. What's true for you this season? What's inspiring you, even if it surprises you? What wants to come through in the new year or sometime next year, but isn't quite ready to be acted on yet? What are some things that have your attention in the winter that maybe are new for you? So we're just getting curious and we approach it with a don't know mind, like oh, where did you come from? And how do I get to be in relationship with you? So winter is such a time for receptivity, I think is a great word for it. So some of the qualities of winter, and you're going to get to play with your own list in a moment. Winter is quiet. I don't know about you all, but I walk a couple times a day, regardless of weather. There's a couple caveats to that, but regardless of weather. And in the winter, especially around the holidays, oh, the quietude. There's no cars and there's no dogs barking and there's very few people outside and there's no lawn equipment running and the leaves have fallen and maybe there's wind and like the rustling of the tree branches, but it's quiet. Winter is quiet. It's dark. We have a lot less daylight. It's a time for retreating, right? How many of you want to be inside in the winter and maybe we gather less frequently or with less people? It's a time for stillness and clarity. We have less energy. We might crave warmth, both from our clothing, our creature comforts, the things we put in our body, like hot water or tea or coffee, the foods we eat, even wanting to keep us warm longer, wanting to eat richer proteins and more dense carbohydrates and more complex vegetables like hearty root vegetables and kale versus like those summer smoothies that maybe, I like to enjoy in the different time of year. Some other qualities that it's necessary for new growth. And that takes me to the next bullet point. This is a season for culling. Culling is about bringing things down. We cull when we reduce. So you cull your gardens. Animal herds cull unnecessary or excessive growth of the herd. We cull back the tree branches. We cull back all the ferns and the hostas and everything that is done for the season. And when you do that, when you cull back, you put all the energy into the root system. Like when all of our leaves fall from our trees, we keep the leaves and we make a little bed around the root bulb of our trees to keep them warm, for they don't freeze over the winter. All of that is in preparation for the spring. So there's a preparation going on again behind the scenes. It looks like nothing is happening, and yet lots of stuff is happening. So that means it's a space for contemplation, just like a space for curiosity, a time to slow down. What more? So these are just a few of my qualities of winter. You're going to get to play with that. I'm going to give you just 2 minutes for lists to list the words and or phrases that embody what the winter season means to you. So 2 minutes for this. I'll leave my list up in case you want to capture some of these for yourself, and I will put 2 minutes on the clock. Very quick exercise. All right, 30 more seconds. All right, wrapping that up. Let's use the chat box. I want to hear about your qualities, so your words or phrases that embody the winter season. And it's okay if some of them are repeated on my list. I just want to hear what came up for you. So we'll take a couple minutes here. I want everyone to share. We'll use the chat box for this. Awesome. Thank you, Rishi. Introspection, unpredictable. Nice addition. I like that. Retreat from outside cares. Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, Deb. A great continuation of choline, shedding of things that no longer serve me. Yes, what a great definition. And that goes to, I know spring is traditionally the time when we open the windows and we clean, but what a great process to get started in the winter. Let's see. Catherine said solemn, great word. Regenerative, really good word. Crisp, spare, sacred. Thank you, Deb. Yeah, clarification. Yeah, calling back the habits. Yep, not the same as New Year's resolutions. I want to point out that. Thank you, April. Meaningful connection, chosen family, twinkly lights and starlight. Yes, appreciation of the light that does come through. Yeah. Beautiful. Noticing patterns, routines, sync CC, creating ease, familiarity, simplifying. And I'm naming these for the recording so those who are watching this later can hear all your fabulous additions. Okay, so here you have a list of words, and you might have more than you're sharing in the chat box. So we're going to work with these today. I'm hoping these find their way into your intention for the winter. And we're going to keep building on this, but looking at your list that you have in front of you, quickly go through and circle or star or highlight a handful, 5-ish, that really resonate for you. That for whatever reason you go, ooh, I think I need that in my life in some capacity. I don't know what that is yet, I don't know how it's going to shake out yet, but I need that. So just take a moment here, quickly reflect on that, just highlight it. We'll come back to it a little bit later. All right, so hopefully you have those words. If you need another minute, take that. We're going to move into a deeper dive on the qualities of this rhythm of winter and how we can invite some more of that into our own life and work. So something that really jumps out for me in the winter is that it is a time for rehumanizing our pace of life. I wish I could take credit for that statement. I cannot. That is straight out of The Seven Whispers by Christina Baldwin. When I read that book just a month ago, I must have written that down in my journal and circled it about 30 times. It just clicked in me for whatever reason. So this is inspiring the next little section here, but we're going to go through a few qualities and then we're going to journal on each of them before we get to our intention. First, a quote here from Catherine May from her book Wintering. And feel free to screenshot this if you want to hold on to it. Plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives that they lived in the summer. They prepare, they adapt, they perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get them through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing scant resources, carrying out acts of brutal efficiency, another word for choline, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation occurs. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but it's a crucible. And endings and beginnings are really two sides of the same coin. So, winter being that natural completion of a cycle is by nature the beginning of a cycle as well. And although we don't see the fruits of that beginning until spring, it is the beginning of the beginning. And I just love that she says here plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempt to carry on living the same lives they lived in the summer. We live in a culture, at least in the West, that would prefer us to be at the peak of our productivity without cessation forever. So, without ceasing, productivity all day, every day, compounded growth, productivity, urgency, do more, be more, make more, create more, earn more, save more, without ever taking a pause, clarifying intentions, pulling back unnecessary progress or excessive productivity. We don't preach that. We don't model that. And we celebrate holidays this time of the year, which tends to be about overconsumption and taking in even more, eating more, drinking more, buying more, shopping more. Don't get me wrong. I love the holidays and I love the generosity of the spirit this time of year. But I do think about and I do wonder about the timing of things and how in the winter, organically, that is not what it's called for. As she says here, it's a time for withdrawing from the world, doing with what we already have, calling back unnecessarily, and disappearing a little bit so that we can begin again when the time is right. So, what in this quote jumps out at you? Just take a note for yourself. And you're also welcome to share it if you want to. You can also unmute yourself if you want to let me know. But what in this quote resonates for you, if anything? Thank you. Yeah, Cece said it feels like permission. Deb, the natural cycle comes alive in the first sentence. Yeah, absolutely. The word crucible, where transformation occurs. I find myself fighting it every year. Brutal efficiency. Yeah, I know, April, that statement, like, well, that really hits me upside the head as well. And Deb, I align with that. Well, I want to say I used to fight it. I used to really, bear it tooth and nail, like, oh, December and the holidays are the only month that make the rest of it bearable. And then I just have to get through January, February, and March, completely overlooking the gifts and the invitations that a winter season provides. And I sometimes can't help but wonder if because we live in a culture that is so prominently summer all the time, we live out summer energy regardless of what's going on outside of our windows. If we lived in a culture that truly honored the seasons and the cycles, would I have more reverence for winter? And can I create that a little bit more for myself? So the last 2 years have been a real practice of inviting this season to work itself out on me and to try on some things and to invent some things and some rituals for myself in the winter that I have come to love almost more than any other season. So I find that to be inspiring. Let's go through a handful of these qualities and we're going to work with them in our journals as well before we move into our intention setting for the season. So, winter is a time to take stock. Going back to that quote here, maximizing scant resources. This is a time to take stock. So, although we no longer depend on harvesting and preserving summer and fall crops for survival, winter remains a natural time to pause and reflect. It's a season to take stock of our resources and examine how we're using them. I want to share with you an extensive resource list. I want to give a hat tip to Andrea Renee, who I learned this from. She's a teacher and a writer and a coach. You can find her on Instagram. I took a class from her 4 or 5 years ago, and she blew my mind with essentially this slide to say we have so many more resources than time and energy and money. Everything here is a resource that you have. So take a moment to absorb this. There's a lot here, and you're also welcome to take a quick photo of it because we are going to work with this in the next exercise. So you may want to take a little screenshot, or you can even take your phone up to it and take a picture. Let's go through really quickly each of these resources. So and you have all of these, but you might have some in abundance and some not in abundance. And that's what we're going to work with next. Your identity is a resource. All that is packed into your innate sense of self, all of your experiences, the money you have, and also the money you don't have. Sometimes the money we don't have becomes a greater resource because we have to pull up from a different part of ourselves. Technology, what a bountiful resource, even one I think we over rely on. Education, not the same as wisdom, but education. What have you gone out of your way to learn? Your energy, which is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Your gifts and talents and skills, the thing that for whatever reason you're just simply great at. You just are. And you've cultivated it and you've leaned into it, but you came into this world just kind of knowing how to do it. Your community, so your chosen family, the people that you purposely go out of your way to spend time with, as well as your most intimate and personal relationships, one-to-one, one-to-few, the people who are in maybe your brain trust, partners, friends, family, the people that you entrust the most. Your ancestry, where you come from, the lineage, but also the mythology that goes with your ancestry. Your ambition, your desires. Coaching is a resource. Many of you in this room are trained in this practice. And so, what does it mean to be in a collaborative relationship with yourself, a curiously driven relationship? Resiliency is a resource, sometimes one that we over rely on. And then on the other column here, our relationship to source or the divine or the universe or God or whatever your spiritual connection may be, knowledge or wisdom, not just what we've gone out of our way to learn, but what we embody and understand. Our value system. Oh, I've got community on here twice. It's clearly very important to me. Your imagination, the visions you keep, just like your dreams, your voice and self-expression, your intuition, the boundaries you set, what you appreciate, the hope you hold on to, your self-belief, the way that you believe in and have faith in yourself, your commitments, the things you dedicate all of these resources in the direction of, and the things that you're passionate about. And there's more where this came from. There's so many more resources, and I think we totally appreciate we have in our wheelhouse and in our toolbox all the time. I went through that very quickly. So if you go back and rewatch this, you can pause and take some more specific notes. But the important thing here is for this next exercise that you can pick up a few of them and play with them here for just a few minutes. So I want to make sure, does everyone have a screenshot of this or a photo of this for the next exercise? I'm seeing head nods. Okay, great. So this exercise, we're going to take 3 minutes. What resources are depleted? And you can use the list, or maybe you have others you want to add to it. What resources have you overused or over depended upon? So where do you have some depletion? What resources do you have an abundance of? What do you look at and go, oh, I am underutilizing that. And not only that, I have so much more of this resource than I give myself credit for. So we're going to take 3 minutes here for this exercise. I'm available in the chat box if you have any questions. A little less than a minute here. All right, wrapping that one up, holding on to what you explored, and you can also come back. This might be one you want to spend some more time with. Maybe you want to do a more thorough audit of the resources as well, or spend some time adding your own resources to the list that I didn't include. The next quality of winter we're going to explore is the opportunity for more rest. And I don't mean energetically, but I mean actually sleeping and taking pauses and doing less and less packed calendars and more downtime, more physical downtime. And like other living beings, humans are designed to need more rest during the winter season. And part of it is because there's more darkness, there's less light, it affects our circadian rhythm. So we simply crave and have a physical need for more sleep. I think the average is an additional 1 to 2 hours more a night. I'm not saying you're getting that. I'm not saying that you should feel like you have to get that. I'm just saying rhythmically, your body might enjoy it. So when you honor this need, you support your well-being and set yourself up for renewed vitality come spring. It's okay if you're sleepy in the winter. You're supposed to be. It's the winter. It's okay if you find yourself at 5 o'clock on the couch nodding off and you can't stay awake. My wife now knows that whatever we watch in the evening, put the show that I really want to see first because we always watch two. And I usually make it through the first 15 minutes of the second show. It could be 7 p.m. and y'all, I am snoring on the couch. My body is ready to go to bed. Now I'm up a lot earlier, to be fair, but an opportunity for more rest, I welcome it this time of the year. So this might be crunchy for you, but this is the invitation. Take a moment to reflect on your current rest and sleep patterns. Are you getting enough? And this is intuition. Who cares what the stats say and the websites say and the AI says, whatever. To you intuitively, are you getting enough sleep and or enough rest? If yes, what aspects of this feel particularly beneficial right now? What are you enjoying about the excess? And if you're not getting enough, what changes could help you get more rest? This is a simple but powerful exercise. I'm going to give you 3 minutes here for this, and then we're going to reflect on this one together. Take one more minute here. All right, about 30 seconds. Okay, wrapping that one up, I wanted to hear in the chat box. This is a quick, obvious, simple exercise, and yet one that I don't reflect on very often. Um, Let me know in the chat box. What did you get from that quick exercise? There's a few more we're going to go through, but this one I want to touch on for a moment. Thank you, Nancy. Beneficial. Good, you are getting sleep. Going to bed early, playing soft music. Oh, I love that. What a ritual. What a great ritual. April, I've been sleeping more and I'm more sleepy during the day, but I always feel like I shouldn't be. Yeah, what would it be like to try on? I feel exactly how I'm meant to feel in the winter. I'd be curious if that would be helpful. Thank you, Deb. I know I'm tired. This prompt forced me to examine how to change that. Awesome. 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 And there's a difference, I think, between I have low energy and I'm physically depleted. Low energy, natural. It's winter. We're not supposed to exert as much. Naturally, we gain more weight in the winter. We're living on more reserves. We're eating more hearty foods. We're not moving our bodies as much. We're sleeping more. This is all purposeful. But there's a difference between I just feel like my body needs a breather and I'm not physically rested enough. I'm acting as though I don't need what I actually need. Thank you, CC. Create an agreement with my, oh, where'd it go? With my husband that we have permission to sleep when I feel like it. I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Rushi, often wake up early, then snuggle back in warmth of bed. I love that feeling. That is the best feeling in the world. That in between time where a lot of creative thinking happens. Oh, what a great awareness to have for yourself. What a cool ritual, too, in the quietude of morning. I want to build in cozying. I think that should be a word. Being cozy and dozing. I think it sounds like what Rushi does in the morning, that awake, but I have nowhere to be and I have nothing I need to do, and kind of soaking in that space. All right, thank you for indulging me with that one. There's a few more we're going to move into. And I just want to note too that as women, we need more sleep than men. And if any of you are over the age of 40 or the age of 50, or are perimenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal, friends, you need a lot more sleep to the tune of 9+ hours a night for hormone regulation, digestion, rest and digest, all of that. I'm not saying you're getting it. I'm not saying you should feel any amount of shame for not getting it, but do not feel guilty needing and wanting more rest. Okay, the winter also gives us space to be still and listen, that receptivity I talked about earlier. So when we reduce our productivity in the winter, we open up spaciousness within ourselves. If we're not constantly doing, what's left? Wouldn't you like to find out? not just for rest, but for stillness and listening. So, not just for lounging, as much as I love it, but also for receiving, for listening, for paying attention, for noticing, for being curious. We can listen to our bodies. We can listen for new dreams. We can listen to our true needs. We can listen to what we actually need. So here in this exercise, 3 minutes to try it on. Hat tip to my dear friend Emma for these questions. And this is in this moment. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about 6 o'clock this morning. Don't worry about tomorrow. At this exact moment, which it is 11:06 in the morning where I am, it might be 2 o'clock where you are. What overriding emotion are you feeling? What overriding emotion are you feeling in this moment? And how does your body feel in this moment? And what are these things telling you? What overriding emotion are you feeling? How does your body feel? What are these things telling you? Okay, 3 minutes here. All right, take about 30 more seconds. And again, you can always come back to these if you feel inspired by them. All right, wrapping that one up. And again, you can always come back to these prompts a little bit later. This is also a practice that I was invited to try each morning upon waking. I have not done it, I'm not gonna lie. It's a very new practice for me to move out of my head and start to embody a bit more of embodiment practice. So it's new for me, but I wanted to share it with you all as well. All right, one last quality, and then we're going to move into our intention setting. So, the last quality of the season is an opportunity to rehumanize our pace. As Christina Baldwin says in The Seven Whispers, conditioning teaches us to accommodate speed. Speed can also be urgency, productivity, excessive outpouring of energy. But we are responsible for the pace we bring the moment, and we must rehumanize our speed of life. Oh, maybe this is just for me, but often the thing that I need the most tends to be the thing that so many of us need because we're so connected. So the last exercise here for this section, what are some ways you can rehumanize your pace of life this season? And I'll give you 3 final minutes for this prompt. We'll take one final minute here. All right, in our final 10 seconds here, wrapping up. And again, any one of these prompts you could spend 10, 15 minutes with. So I'm just giving you a little taster. Before I move into our intention setting, our last segment for today's class, I do want to invite you to share in the chat box. What did you get from that whole segment? Again, we looked at 4 qualities of the winter season. Let me go back up here. Time to take stock of our resources, opportunity for rest, space to be still and listen, and rehumanizing our pace of life. So I'm so curious to hear what you got from that. Thank you, Cece. Call my schedule, grant myself more grace for downtime. Yes. One of the ways that I indulge in downtime is by reading fiction, which sounds like such a small thing. So many people read fiction. It's not revelatory for many, but I have been such a productivity all hours of the day girl for so long that even my books had to teach me something or be productive or be turned into something productive. And reading fiction just felt so indulgent, and it still feels indulgent, but that is the permission slip that I am giving myself in this season, and I cannot get enough of it right now. Thank you, Nancy. Glory in and celebrate my relationships. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a gift. Deb, be less reactive, less responsive. Yeah. Less urgency, right? Less urgency. And notice too how often you, excuse me, might be absorbing other people's need for urgency as your own. And you might find that actually, I don't need to be so on the ball. Maybe others request that of me for their own reasons, but do I actually have to react or respond in that same way? How do I want to show up? Can I lean back a little bit more? Can I take more space when I am in response to things that are coming into my field? All right. Any other shares? Thank you, Rishi. I'm allowing myself rest and sleep this season. Beautiful. I have more resources that are yet untapped that I have not been aware of. Fabulous. Yeah, that's the gift of that little exercise. It's just awareness. It just kind of opens our scope. Thank you, Deb, for that addition there. It feels selfish to say that, but this is exactly right. My boundaries are waiting to be rediscovered. Oh, I love that. I love boundary work any time of the year. All right, in our final 13 minutes together, we're going to set an intention for the winter season. This is intuitive. This is quick. This is supportive. And you might not get it done in the next 10 minutes. You might get the bones of it and then over the next few days, or maybe on the actual solstice, which is on the 21st, on Saturday. You might come back to it and really codify it for yourself. So maybe you get a working draft going today, and we'll work with it from there. So you're going to set what's called a sankalpa. And I learned about sankalpas from my dear friend Kristen Fritz, and she learned about them from one of her spiritual mentors, Dhanapani. So this is a winter sankalpa. Sankalpa is a Sanskrit word, and it loosely means intention. It's an intention, and it is a short phrase or sentence, clearly and concisely expressed. So it's something that you can call up. It needs to be an intention that you don't have to rummage through your notes for, right? Like you know it. It is so simple and so clear, and it has to only mean anything to you. And it serves as a consistent through line to bring about a positive change in one's life. So think about the influence of today's work that you did around the winter, reimagining space and grace and time and rest and calling up new resources and calling back your schedule, all the things that you all are naming. That's a positive change. What would it be like if you spent the entire winter doing what you have named for yourself today? And what intention could you clarify for yourself to call you back to that should you lose your way? Should you find yourself overproducing? Should you find yourself not reading that book you want to read, or not sleeping in, or setting your alarm unnecessarily, or feeling some urgency with your schedule, and anything else in between? This is your personal vow to support your highest truth as you move into your personal winter season. And sankalpas are personal, so it doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you, but it has to make sense to you. It needs to click in your bones. You can read it and go, "Oh yeah, that's the thing I'm aiming within, not outside of me, but inside of me. That's my true compass right now. That's my intention." So that's what a sankalpa is. We're going to go through this each step at a time. So don't rush ahead. We're going to do step one. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to make a list of words or phrases that describe the feeling you wish to cultivate this winter. Maybe it's rest or space or clarity or inspiration or whatever else. And then you're going to circle any words or phrases that really jump out at you. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes here and make your list. Take one more minute. All right, in our final 10 seconds here, going back through your list if you haven't already, and circle the ones that are the most resonant. So a word or a phrase that really captures it for you. And again, this is a working draft. You might come back to this in a couple of days. Okay, we're going to move on to step 2. This is where we begin to work on that Sankalpa. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes here. And step 3 is to narrow it to 1. So you might find your intention today. You might want to take this list of intentions and let it percolate over the next few days. So you're going to make a list of present tense statements. Again, coming back real quick to this definition of a sankalpa, it's a clearly and concisely expressed phrase. It's a through line. It's something you can call up very easily. It could be an I am statement. So I am honoring the spaciousness of the season, or I am enjoying indulgently in the coziness of winter. So those are just a couple examples. And it's I am and it's present tense because when we call it up, when we work with it throughout the winter, we want it to bring us back to the thing we want to be in this moment. So again, it's not an aspiration, it's an alignment. What do I want to align with for the season? So using your words or phrases that you just came up with, make a list of statements. These are the intentions. Again, working draft. Get as many down as you can. And I'm going to give you a full 5 minutes here, which is going to take us to the end of class, but I think it's important. Again, I'm available in the chat if you need me. All right, we are halfway. All right, we have about a minute left. If you feel that you have found your intention and you want to share it, feel free to put it in the chat box. If you feel like you're not quite there yet, use the final minute and then come back to this and make sure that you get your intentions set by the winter solstice on Saturday. So we'll give you another 30 seconds here. Okay, so finding a wrap up point, and again, that was quick. You can absolutely come back to it. Feel free to put it in the chat if you want to. As I said earlier, intentions are personal, so don't feel like you have to share it with us. But if it's helpful to offer it up, feel free to do so. One little last housekeeping note, and then I know we have a minute left. If anyone wants to share takeaways, I would love to hear it. Before we wrap up, I do want to add into the chat here, my next practice cohort is titled Embracing Our Largeness, and it's about what happens when we live a non-adaptive life. It's not entirely possible, but how can we move in that direction? It's my last cohort until next summer. The dates are January 9th, 16th, and 23rd, I want to say, and we have just 3 spots left. So they're free. I want to put that in the chat box, so I'm just going to leave that there for you all. Let's quickly share takeaways. You can vocalize it by unmuting yourself or put it in the chat box while we wrap up for today. Any takeaways? Thank you, Catherine. Feeling grateful in this moment for the possibilities of winter. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. April, thank you. A list of resources helps to remind me of what I can call on when I need to. Yeah, beautiful. Come back to it, print it, put it on your desk, put it in your journal. It's so easy to forget that we have this much available to us any moment of the day. Awesome. Thank you, Rushi. An affirming set of reflections. I appreciate that. All right, beautiful. Thank you all so much for joining me. And to those who were listening to this week recording, we had quite a few people who said, send me the recording. I can't make it live. I totally get that. I hope you set your intentions if you haven't already for the winter solstice. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful, spacious, quiet, reverent season as it arrives in whatever way that it arrives. And Saturday marks the beginning of my own personal pause, my own purposeful pause, and my own semi-sabbatical, I'm calling it, because I'll still be working with my clients and doing some writing, but all other components of my work will be on pause for the next 6+ months. This is my last class for the foreseeable future, and that will be my last cohort. The cohorts will come back, but it'll be a little bit of a moment. So I want to thank you all so much. Each of you have received my note in such kind receptivity, and it's a big move we're making, but one that is deeply inspired and one that I am so grateful to get to give to myself. So thank you for your patience and for your appreciation and for your kindness as I take a pretty big step back for the new year. All right, y'all. Blessings to you all. Truly, be well, be kind, be true to yourselves. Have a beautiful new year, and I'll see you when I see you. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.